What's going on, guys? This is Bobby Douglas. Welcome to another 2021 NBA Draft Prospect full game video breakdown. Today, we are taking a look at West Virginia guard Deuce McBride, or Miles, aka Deuce McBride. He was a very solid player for West Virginia this year, hit a ton of really clutch shots, pretty much led them to that 3 seed in the NCAA tournament where they ultimately bowed out to Syracuse. But overall, throughout the entire college season, he was one of my favorite players to watch, so I'm excited to break him down here. In this game, he's playing Texas on the road. He's going to finish with 17 points, 4 assists, 3 rebounds in about 37 minutes of play. So here we go. Let's watch Miles McBride. He's going to be number 2 in the navy blue, right? So he'll be guarding, I think to start, it looks like Matt Coleman for Texas. And you can see immediately just like how, pressure-oriented his defensive acumen is. He's one of the better point-of-attack defenders in the draft because he just gets into opposing guards' shirts, right? Doesn't really give them a whole lot of room to operate, makes them uncomfortable. He makes a living making people uncomfortable, which is always something that I think is valuable in the NBA. To what extent, it's still kind of unclear. Him being only around 6'2", 6'3", obviously he's going to have some versatility issues defensively, right? But overall, his point of attack defense is going to be really solid. A lot of teams I know are looking for that just so they can kind of play a little bit more comfortably in drop coverage. There's just a lot of things that I think Deuce McBride does well. Did I say number 2 in the blue? I meant number 4 in the blue, if that wasn't clear. But, again, guarding number 2, Matt Coleman for Texas, you can see him kind of, rotating smartly, always in good position and to help, things like that. Very smart off the ball. And so defensively, I think he can get minutes pretty early just because he's so intense and so just energetic. And then offensively, I think he has one of the better pull-up mid-range jumpers. Granted, I don't know how often he gets to flash that skill in the NBA, but I think, in terms of mid-range shooting, he's definitely one of the more reliable ones. I would say personally, just it always seemed like the ball would go in. Smooth release, things like that. He can extend it out to 3 as well. He shot 41.4% from three-point range this year. Doesn't really have a whole lot of burst on the ball offensively, and so he kind of does need a screen at times. But he's pretty quick, and again, he can kind of he loves pulling up from mid-range, things like that. Struggles at times to get to the rim. He's a below-the-rim finisher. And just overall, again, that burst kind of comes into play, or that lack of burst, I should say. But, I think with Deuce McBride, he's just a winning basketball player, someone that you would want to have on your team. Intangibles, leaderships, all that stuff. He checks every box in that regard, so I think that is something that I'm pretty much a fan of. You can see right here, just perfect, just everything, right? And his handle's pretty good. It's probably a little bit underdeveloped for him to be like a lead point guard. And so I kind of see him more of like a combo guard / off-ball guy, right? But right here, you can kind of see the handle. And again, doesn't really have great burst getting to the rim, but he sets up Matt Coleman well right there, gets to his spot in the mid-range, elevates and fires. And again, as I mentioned, in terms of mid-range shooting and just getting that shot off the dribble, I think it's one of the more reliable mid-range shots in this draft class. It always felt like he would hit it at big times, right? Just things like that. He had a knack for clutch scoring at West Virginia. He would go on some tears where he would just, score their 10 points in a row for West Virginia when they were struggling offensively. He was a guy that I really wanted to bet on in the NCAA tournament, when I was thinking about, how far does West Virginia go. I think I ultimately had them going to the Elite Eight, but they ultimately lost in the second round to Syracuse. But Deuce McBride had a very impressive year. He ran this West Virginia team. The assist numbers weren't, outstanding, around 5 a game. But I think, actually, no, the assist numbers were pretty good, but it's more like the eye test in terms of his passing. I would say it's a little bit underwhelming. That's why I don't really see him as a true point guard in the NBA, despite his 6'2", 200-pound frame. So again, I kind of see him kind of like an energizer guy coming off the bench, playing a little bit of 1, playing a little bit of 2. I think Adam Spinella, who just released his gigantic big board, it's super in depth, right? He said that he thinks Deuce McBride kind of at worst turns into a Marcus Smart player, right? And I'm thinking that kind of makes sense, right? Undersized, but he's kind of like a bulldog physically. You can see right there, again, just kind of this penchant for these long mid-range 2s that I think will overall kind of kill his efficiency. He still shot 43% from the floor, which isn't horrible. But right here, you can see the jump shot. right? He loves taking those shots right there. Pretty bad miss, but overall, I kind of do like the jump shot, even though it looks like a little bit of a throw-in. Maybe he kind of releases it too far behind his head, but it went in a lot from three, and his free throw numbers were really good too, over 80% from the line. So again, with those types of guys, unless it's like glaring like Jaden Springer, where like he shot really well from all three, all three like field goal, 3-point free throw. But like it was pretty obvious that his shot just wasn't really good mechanically. Other than that, I'm pretty lenient on overall shot form. If there's one thing that I think like is minor but could use correcting, like I'm kind of okay rolling the dice on that. You can see Deuce McBride again. Derek Culver just basically misreads this entire thing, but you can see just like the energy he brings defensively, right? He's always in a stance, not really giving Matt Coleman any room to really operate. That's Derek Culver's mishap on that switch, but you can see like Deuce McBride can't really do anything about that. But yeah, again, like his on-ball defense is one of the best in the draft. Like he'll pick guys up full court, just kind of be a nuisance, right? Delay any action that the offense wants to run, because you got to worry about Deuce McBride just being in your shirt, right? And so I think that's something that he'll bring right away. Similar to like Javon Carter. I know that's probably a lazy comparison just because like, Javon Carter was like West Virginia, Press Virginia, whatever, right? Right here, I think Deuce wanted the lower guy to take it. Yeah, he wanted Tasherman to take this, and so he's going to go down. Just a miscommunication, and it's going to lead to a wide open three for Matt Coleman. Deuce needs to kind of take control of that right there. But yeah, I think when you're talking about like McBride compared to Carter, I think you got to mention that like I think offensively, I think Deuce McBride is like miles ahead of Javon Carter, and probably not as good defensively, but similar. And so like overall, I think Javon went. Did he go? I want to say he went in the second round, but like I think Deuce McBride could be challenging for a first round spot. Right now, when I was kind of going through my kind of just like going through my big board, I had him like at 28. So he's kind of like on that fringe of the first round for me. I know he has a few spots to go in terms of like guys I want to look at and seeing if they're above or below, right? So he kind of has like a little bit of room. So he might be a pretty good contender for that 30 spot on my board. And also just an update on the overall big board. So I'm only going to do 60 players this year. I feel like, last year 75, like there were just like a lot of guys that I was just like, yeah, I'll just throw them on there. So I'm kind of limiting myself to 60, and that's just kind of like, obviously the 60 picks in the draft, right? Maybe I'll give like 5 honorable mentions, right? But I kind of just want to focus on the 60 guys that I've really done a lot of in-depth scouting on, right? And we got a foul right here. And here we go. Emmett Matthews shooting free throws. There's one. There is the second. But yeah, no, it's going to be limited to 60 players also because just like the time crunch between now and the NBA draft. Like obviously there was like literally nothing going on last year. So I was able to kind of just, do 75, take a little bit more time with it. And I kind of found that 75 might be a little bit too many players. You know what I mean? Like, again, only 60 players in the draft and you're just kind of like, all right. So yeah, obviously there are always going to be some good undrafted free agents, but there's never going to be more than 60 impact rookies or impact players in one draft class, right? So I kind of think limiting myself to 60, just from like a quality over quantity standpoint and things like that, I think that's probably the move for me. You can see right here, Deuce kind of gets himself into trouble with that dribble. So again, just kind of knowing like your surroundings, and this is what I mean. Like I'm not really sold on him as a primary distributor. He can kind of get cramped in tight spaces because he's not a very explosive athlete in the half court. And then right there, he kind of puts himself in a bad position. Overall, just kind of in that post-up spot with like the Texas front. They're literally starting their 3 NBA draft-ready bigs. Jericho Sims, Kai Jones, and Greg Brown. Like, Deuce doesn't really have a chance when he's going up against those 3 guys in the lane. So yeah, it's just kind of a tough situation for him to be in. But I really just, overall, I like his, mentality. He's kind of like got that bulldog thing, you know what I mean? He plays bigger than his size, kind of like Davion Mitchell does too, except Deuce is a little bit bigger than Mitchell. But he'll battle, he'll set tough screens. He's not afraid to get physical. Right there, they were kind of closing out on Greg Brown. Deuce was kind of overzealous in helping. That's one thing that I will say about his off-ball defense is that he's pretty locked in, but sometimes he just gambles a little bit too much. This can be said for his on-ball defense, too. Like, he's really good at keeping guys out of the paint and kind of funneling them to where they don't want to go on the floor. But sometimes I feel like he's so hung up on, like, just harassing the guy he's guarding that it kind of opens up lanes for guards to go by him, right? But overall, like, if you wanted to play contained defense, right, and just kind of stay in front of guys, like, he could absolutely do that. But I think he was kind of given a pretty long leash at West Virginia in terms of what he could do, just in terms of ball pressure, right? And so sometimes he would kind of get burned on that just a little bit, but I don't really have any concerns about that long term just because I know he can contain if he wants to, right, if he just kind of takes out a little bit of that aggression. And so, yeah, that's kind of like the whole, like, that's what I mean, like, is point of attack defense really all that valuable compared to, like, rim protection, things like that? But, I do think Deuce McBride can kind of offer that perimeter acumen defensively that teams are definitely looking for. Just not a guy who's going to be super versatile, obviously, given the fact that he's only 6'2", right? You can see right now, though, he's on Kai Jones, which I think is pretty hilarious. You can see just kind of locked in defensively, right? Like, he's moving his feet well, head on a swivel, isn't getting caught ball watching, rotates well with Kai Jones right there, easy layup for Texas. But again, just kind of always like he's reacting to every pass, right? He's not staying in the same spot. And then right there, this is a really nice finish. Again, just kind of gets Kai Jones with the hang dribble. And again, in transition, you can see that athleticism kind of unleash a little bit. So like right here, good hesitation on Kai Jones. And again, it's going to get blocked, but it's a goaltend and it goes in anyway. So again, and you can see him busting his ass to get back on defense. Just the overall hustle of Deuce McBride, I think, is really awesome. He's just one of those guys that's just super fun to watch. Like, if you throw on any West Virginia game, they had this trend of just playing super close and super entertaining games. Like, there would be shootouts involved. Like, there would be, like, I think, what was it? I think there was, like, a double overtime game where it was, like, Deuce McBride and Austin Reeves from Oklahoma just kind of, like, trading buckets, right? And it went back and forth. It was so much fun to watch. And yeah, so I really, like, West Virginia was one of my favorite teams to watch in college basketball this year, just because they played super hard. They had a really good balance of shooting and overall interior play. They played tough. And yeah, it was like one of those teams that I thought, for a program that has historically underwhelmed offensively, I thought they had some really good offensive players in, like, Taz Sherman, Sean McNeil, Deuce, obviously, and so I thought they were a fun team to watch. Right here, again, just kind of seeing, like, again, just like watch where Deuce is kind of picking up. I think this is going to be Courtney Ramey, right? So he's busting his ass to get back, and then immediately, just the second he crosses half court, right, he's just in his grill, right? And again, it kind of, unfortunately, Jordan McCabe kind of loses sight of his man. But you can see where is Courtney Ramey making this pass from, right? So he kind of loses the ball, right? And then watch how far away he has to make this pass from. Like, Deuce is kind of just, like, forcing him into the corner, right? And you don't really see, like, that intensive ball pressure with a lot of these guards in the NBA. And so I think that's really impressive. Let's see what he does here. Yeah, and you can see kind of like a below-the-rim finisher in transition. That was going 1-on-4. I don't mind, like, the take right there. I think in that situation you had to take the layup, but he's not going to be one of these guys that can really just explode at the rim, right? Definitely needs to add some more craft to his overall finishing ability, But, again, like, a guy who offensively I think could really be a solid kind of, like, in-between guard. Can play a little bit of point guard. He does have some, like, good reads in transition as a passer, but, like, overall in the half court, his passing vision kind of depreciates just because he doesn't really have that burst, and so things aren't really opening up for him as much as they are for other guys who have better size or better quickness with the ball. We got Deuce shooting free throws here. I think he's going to be 5 of 6 from the line in this game. So we'll watch him shoot these free throws, and again, you can see 82% from the season. At this point, he finished the season at 81.3. And that one's going to go in, and here comes the second one. Great angle, too. I'm kidding, obviously. But again, like, form looks good, beef, balance, eyes, elbow, feet, I think, is that what it stands for, right? But it's all in line, right? No crazy things. And again, just immediately after this made free throw, right? Like, how many guys are just picking up beyond half court now? You know what I mean? And you can just see he moves his feet well, right? Just, tries to get big in a stance. Again, just kind of like funneling Matt Coleman to where he doesn't want to go, and just look at this. So right here, he finally gets the ball. That wasted 15 seconds of their offense. So now they got to scramble in the late shot clock. And that's ultimately what I think is the biggest value in terms of point of attack. Right here, probably what we talked about, kind of a little bit of an overzealous help, right? He probably should be syncing with Matt Coleman, but again, right here, he kind of goes for that trap, leaves his man open, one pass away. Those are the types of mistakes and gambles that I think he kind of knows is a mistake in a gamble, but just kind of things that he needs to temper a little bit better, I would say, once he gets to the NBA. And again, there's really no, like, indication that he won't be able to do that, and so I'm not really worried about it. But I think the ultimate we got some replays right here, but the ultimate goal, I think, in the end of point of attack is just to delay, right? I think that's the ultimate goal. Make the offense uncomfortable so that way they have to scramble at the end of a shot clock. So if Deuce McBride can consistently take off like 6 or 7 seconds due to his ball pressure, that's a win because now you're making the offense kind of slow down, get stagnant, right? And then that's going to become like a super super rushed possession, and that's where overall good defensive possessions start, right? They start in the perimeter. But yeah, that's kind of where I think point of attack kind of holds value and holds water in the NBA. Obviously not the most important. I would argue rim protection and overall wing defense, right? Trying to guard these, and versatility obviously are a little bit more important. But point of attack, I think, does play a decent role in terms of having a good defense. Right here, you're going to see him get this ball screen. And again, he's a lot more comfortable shooting off of screens, I would say, than kind of trying to create his own space with the ball in his hands. His handle, I think, is okay, not great in terms of being super just incisive, right? We got a foul here, it looks like. And so I think with the assistance of screens, I think he could be a pretty pretty good shooter and overall scorer. He's out right here for a little bit. This, I think, is the only time he's going to be out. So I'll skip ahead here to, I believe, 8:26. Yeah, and you can see him help side right now. 3-pointer for Texas. And here we go. But yeah, so that's why I kind of see him more of like an off-ball guy, someone who, can kind of provide that tough defense. I think, if you're looking, it might be a little bit of an undersized thing, but again, a guy who a team that could really use Deuce McBride is Atlanta, right? Just kind of bolstering that perimeter point of attack defense, kind of being able to cover for Trey. And then honestly, Deuce McBride would be good too because he can play make in a secondary sense, I think. Because he does have experience running a team in terms of leadership, things like that. I don't know if Atlanta would want to go in that direction just because that's a pretty small backcourt to have, or it's a small combination of guards, right? But I think someone like Deuce McBride would fit in well in Atlanta, just in that terms of providing that initial ball pressure defense need. You look at teams kind of in the late first round, right here. Again, Deuce kind of got lost, I think, on the cut, so he's guarding Andrew Jones. And again, I think it's more so that, I think I'm not sure if this is really a mistake. I think he thinks that Gabe is going to take this cutter, and he notices that this corner shooter is going to be kind of open. So I think it's more of a miscommunication, maybe. But, yeah, I think this is what ended up happening. So you can see kind of Deuce is oh, shit, do I go here? No, I think Gabe's going to take him, and so he's kind of reading back. Sometimes I'll notice this too. Off the ball, he's pretty smart defensively, but he takes a little bit of time to make his decision in terms of where he wants to go. And so I'm not going to say it's he's processing things slower. I think it's more so he sees so many things at once that he kind of gets paralyzed in terms of what he wants to do off the ball. I think that last possession was a pretty good example where it's oh, do I take this cutter? No, but I see this guy in the corner, but I see this guy in the top of the key. And I think there are just so many things that he's thinking about that he kind of can get lost in his own thoughts for a split second, right? I think that's more so what it is off the ball. I think he's a very good and intuitive off-ball defender. But sometimes I think he's just seeing too many things at once and worrying about too many things that, he kind of just gets, frozen for a second. And again, just right here, setting that back screen. And again, just look at the screen he sets, right? This guy is 6'2", and he's setting these screens on Kai Jones, right? Just watch that screen to get Culver open. And they actually may have had him there for a second, too. But just setting good screens, does all the little things. And again, I think Marcus Smart is actually a pretty good comparison. Just as his Marcus Smart would probably be better shooting and less erratic shooting, less erratic play in general, right? I kind of like that comparison for him. It's kind of just an undersized guard, who just plays his ass off defensively. So shout out to Adam Spinella on that one. He was the one that kind of, maybe start thinking about Deuce McBride in the Marcus Smart kind of context. So yeah. But yeah, no, I can definitely see the overall parallels, right? I think Deuce made this pass in transition. And again, we talked about his transition passing, right? So he's going to make that pass. You don't see it, but again, kind of just seeing, streakers down the floor, right? He has pretty good touch in terms of his half-court passing, right? And you can see he runs over to help Derek Culver up, and he's just kind of talking to him, right? And again, the leadership, the intangibles, all that stuff I think is going to be awesome. And it already is awesome, It's going to come down to like, okay, I actually don't really know if it's going to come down to anything. You can see right there, pretty good job, kind of just using that hesitation dribble, right? Obviously he struggles finishing over length because he is pretty small. But, I think, listen, he kind of has, like, all the tools needed to kind of stick in the NBA for, like, a decade, right? Because he plays good defense. He has great overall effort. He can shoot, right? The only thing that I think might be a concern is just kind of him getting to the rim a lot in the NBA just because he doesn't have great burst with his handle, and then obviously his physical limitations don't really allow him to finish over length right now. Made the first free throw, and that second one is going to go in as well. So I would say that's probably the main concern with Deuce McBride. But again, like late in the first round, you're willing to kind of take some of these guys that maybe have one flaw, but just do a lot of things well. And I think with McBride, I think the more I'm talking about him, the more I'm kind of like seeing the first round value with him, right? Just because, defensively, he's always going to give you 100% right there. Really good contest on Ramey. And again, this isn't even his guy, right? So he kind of like notices that I think this is Sean McNeil or Jordan McCabe. I can't tell. But he notices that this guy is beat, so what does Deuce immediately do? He switches it, right, and now he's offering really stout defense, forces Ramey into a tough fadeaway, too, that barely grazes the rim, right? And again, just kind of like that strength that he has. I mean, he was a football player growing up. I think he played quarterback in high school for a few years before making the full-time switch to basketball. And you can kind of see it in his game where he's just, like, not really afraid of contact. He'll hit people, you know what I mean? Like, things like that, similar to Jalen Suggs, except Jalen Suggs, I think, is on another planet, just in terms of his, like, just, like, all-out, like, I'm going to fall to the ground, I'm going to, like, bang bodies, right? Like, I think Jalen Suggs kind of has a different gear in terms of that stuff, where he's almost, like, too aggressive and too contact-seeking for my liking. But, with McBride, I think it's kind of a good balance of just, like, maybe I'm not, like, looking for contact all the time, but I'm definitely not afraid of it, right? And I will embrace it if I need to, And I think, and again, right here, just this is just so fun to watch, right? Just like he's picking up Matt Coleman full court. Matt Coleman, by the way, known for being a pretty loose ball handler, a lot of turnovers for him. But just watch, like, he's sprinting again, not even like giving a step to him, right? And so again, like, just the point of attack defense, you can see right there, and that ultimately leads to the turnover. You can see Deuce McBride immediately, the second that pass was off, like he was sprinting there, he would have been in great position for that closeout. So yeah, that's just kind of like the whole, just, the appeal for me right there defensively. And again, just like allowing the defense to get more comfortable. And you can see right there, let's see if he makes this. Won't make this, but again, these are types of shots that he'll settle for. Not really settle for a lot, but just kind of like, he'll kind of like fall back on these long mid-range twos. Right here, that probably needs to be a 3. And again, pretty bad miss, pretty contested. And so I think sometimes because he doesn't really have that burst and that incisive handle, right? He kind of settles for those like long 2s, and that overall just kind of drives down his efficiency. But I do think that does have a value in the NBA, right? And if he can add a little bit more craft to his handle and to his finishing, like I could see him kind of doing like a campaign, like what he's doing, except offering way better defense. You can see right there, Deuce McBride, just really smart play right here. Not really smart, but just kind of like, kind of like a hustle-oriented play. So Courtney Ramey, like, you can see he's about to get back screened, right? And he's kind of picking off that pass, but then again, he gets around it, and now he's participating in the trap, forcing a timeout, right? Just kind of like little things like that, not giving up on the play, not dying on screens, and just offering that intensity that he always will have. And again, right here, just fighting through all those screens, and here he is on Matt Coleman. Right there, he got plowed by that screen. I don't really blame him for dying on that one because he ran in full speed. It wasn't like he saw it and then he was timid around it. It was more just like he didn't see it and then he just got blindsided by it. So Matt Coleman scores on that layup, and I'm not really, blaming Deuce McBride for that one a whole lot, just because it was a very good screen. Again, you can see him on Matt Coleman. And let's see what happens here. Positionally, always solid, kind of reacts to every pass, always looks focused, always looked engaged. And we got the final 4 minutes coming up in this first half video. I don't know why, but this feels like a very long breakdown to me. I don't know why. I'm having fun, but I feel like the last minute or so has gone by super slow. I don't know. Let's see what we got here. Emmett Matthews trying. There are some plays that just kind of like make you laugh. This is one of them. Like, I think there was one in the Kuminga video. I don't know if I commented or not, or maybe it was just like when Kuminga was out. But like Isaiah Todd tried to basically like from the top of the key just like rifle like a Magic Johnson one-handed bounce pass along like to a baseline cutter, and it predictably got intercepted immediately, right? But it was just kind of, it like makes you laugh. You know what I mean? This is another one where like Emmett Matthews is just trying to, I think he's just trying to kill this guy, right? On this dunk, like just like you know, and like I don't know. When I was watching this, I was just kind of like maybe like audibly chuckle a little bit. But we got free throws for Emmett here, and here we go. Let's go back and rewind this. And again, picking up at half court, moves his feet well. You know, calling out that screen right there, and again, just kind of funneling him away from the middle of the floor. You know, he kind of had Matt Coleman kind of had a half step on him, I would say. But again, Deuce is just really smart. Again, this play was actually really fun because this is actually the play of the first half for me defensively because I'm going to rewind all this. So, okay, so starting this possession off. So he's going to apply pretty good ball pressure to Matt Coleman, right? So again, he's going to first, like, you know, funnel him away from the basket, and now he's down on the block, right? And again, you can see he's sprinting out to Greg Brown, going to force that Greg Brown pass, right? And then he's going to be in great position for that steal. And now he's on the other end again, kind of showing that transition. And they can't get it, but he's still right there. Perfect heads-up pass to Tastrom and bang for three, right? The Deuce McBride experience, right? Smart, good positioning, never give up. Just that entire possession right there, I think, kind of encapsulates Deuce McBride's appeal, right? Just kind of like the hustle, the defensive, just kind of like stick-to-itiveness, you know, the clutch, just overall, you know, quick-hitting decisions. Right there, we got a three. Deuce could have given a little bit of better effort there, but I think he was pretty tired. But, you know, just like everything right there, like the situational passing skill that he has, we just didn't see a shot. Or we did see a shot. Or no, we saw an alley-oop pass. But just, again, like not the most, like, overall, like, skilled guy. Doesn't have the greatest touch, you know, in terms of passing. But he's just a guy that can be, you know, make quick decisions, find open guys when he needs to. And, yeah. But then, like, defensively, he's all over the place. You know what I mean? He's flying around the court, you know, hustling everywhere. And we got free throws for Courtney Ramey here. And here we go. So now you can see McBride's kind of running a little bit off the ball. They're letting Jordan McCabe run the point. We got another foul here. More free throws, and here we go. So again, you can see Deuce McBride picking up full court, right, moving his feet well. Again, not really giving Matt Coleman any room to operate, funneling him away from the rim, but you see the overall limitation because there's no rim protection here, right? McBride does all he can, basically. But again, like, because he's only 6'2", like, he's able to be scored on, right? And then sometimes he maybe pressures too much, which leads to, like, somewhat of an advantage for the offensive player. Just in terms of, like, getting a better angle maybe to get around him. You can see right there, picking up Courtney Ramey. Kai Jones is going to get a foul on the ground, it looks like. Yeah. Did McBride get that rebound? Okay, I just, like, fell to him. And here we go. Let's see what we got here. McBride going to come off this little Iverson screen. Let's see what he does here. In the post, can't really get anything going. And again, doesn't really have that separation with the ball in his hands, right? Because that would have been a good time to maybe try and beat your guy off the dribble. He had that entire weak side open. He was basically on an island. He just couldn't really get the separation he needed. Defaulted to that post-up in the mid-range area. And ultimately just kicks it out, right? Scramble situation for West Virginia right there. McBride did a nice job getting to that first pass in the corner, and then Tastrom follows that up. That was pretty properly executed. And here we go. And again, you could just see like the relentless pressure. Not right here, but just kind of like picking up full court. He kind of sees that screen coming. They wanted to switch that, so they do. And again, he talks on defense, communicates, was a leader on this West Virginia team as a sophomore. On a team that kind of had a lot of issues early, you know, like they had Oscar Sheboy transfer out mid-season, you know, some chemistry issues early on. But he kind of was just like the conductor of this team. Let's take a look at this pass right here. And so again, like pretty good skip pass, not great in terms of his touch, but at least he's kind of recognizing that. That's why I see him more of like an off-ball kind of combo guard where he can kind of maybe run the second unit. But you can see right here, just never giving up. This is where DeMarcus Smart comes in. Again, he's crashing the glass, sees an opportunity, gets the rebound, finishes with the lay-in. But I kind of see him more of a combo guard just because there's I'm not sure that he has that overall burst and passing feel to be a true point guard. And then obviously as a shooting guard, he's small, so kind of like in between, maybe run the second unit, get some point guard minutes, and things like that. That's kind of where I kind of see him playing. Got the final 20 seconds left in this first half. We're going to get a ball screen from Derek Culver, and Jordan McCabe's going to wave him off. Oh, no, we're just going to send him 5 seconds later. Let's see what we got here. McBride. Yeah, he kind of got just caught in the air right there. Not much he could really do. Kind of put into a bad situation in terms of catching the ball in that deep corner with 5 seconds left in the game. So I don't really blame him for that kind of loose ball, bad pass thing. There's not much he can really do right there. But, yeah, that ends the first half, so I will pause the video right here. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I think the ball pressure, the overall defensive feel was definitely on display in this first half. Second half, we'll see a little bit more offense, right? He'll hit a few more shots, so just stay tuned for that. And overall, thanks so much for watching, and I will see you soon for part 2. Bye.